record options. It looks like we're good to go. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Okay, so today we're just going to take a few minutes of your time. We've allotted an hour for today to cover the AFF match. This is a new requirement that we're requiring of, sorry, I apologize for that. This is a new requirement that we are requiring of all programs that are going to be funded for the calendar year 2025. So I will cover in detail some information regarding the match with opportunity at the end for you to ask any questions that you may have. So for today's agenda, we're going to cover what is the match requirement, what qualifies as a match, qualified versus non-qualified program expenses, locating the match guide in the AFF budget, how you calculate the match, completing the budget template, and then we will have some frequently asked questions and opportunity for you all to ask questions as well. So for calendar year 2025, ADAMHS is requiring that all agencies asking for funding have a 25% match per program. And this is for all traditional non-grant funded contracts applying for calendar year 2025. We are aware that we included the Protect and Zero Suicide grants with this application for funding. The 25% match is not required for those two grants. However, if you are one of the agencies that was approved for Protect or Zero Suicide, there was the opportunity for you to apply for levy funds for the last quarter of the year. The grant match would be applicable for those levy funds for the last quarter of calendar year 2025. So what does this mean? The match requirement means that of your total program cost, 75% will be funded by ADAMHS. The remaining 25% must be funded with non-ADAMHS funds. The reason we're doing this is because this will promote the long-term sustainability and success of our programs and also reduce the reliance of levy funds. It is no secret that this year our levy fund budget was a little bit decreased from previous years. And although it will be decreased in the next year, it won't be as drastic as what we experienced this last 6 months. So we are putting measures in place so that we can make sure that we are able to sustain programs in the future. So let's talk about what qualifies as a match. Program costs covered by your organization that are allowable under ADAMHS, non-ADAMHS revenue or income that support the same program that you're asking for funding for. This includes revenue from other grants or partners. But when I talk about revenue from other grants or programs, that is not ADAMHS grants. That would be non-ADAMHS grants. It also can include in-kind transactions or donations that exceed $2,500. And examples of that can be a donation of curriculum or a donation of rental spaces. So back in May, the ADAMHS board president sent out a letter, and it covered a lot about what qualified and non-qualified program expenditures are. We have made that available in the resource center of the EC Impact application for funding website, but I want to talk a little bit about that today as well, because qualified program expenditures are eligible for the match requirement. So the qualified expenses include costs that are allowable under the ADAMHS award. This includes expenses that are directly tied to your program, non-Medicaid or insurance reimbursable services. We cannot supplement Medicaid. Salaries and applicable fringe benefits. When I say applicable fringe benefits, this does not include PTO, unless, of course, that those measures, those quality measures have been met during that same time frame. Supplies, materials, travel, and this also includes 10% of administrative costs or indirect costs. Non-qualified program expenditures include Medicaid or insurance reimbursable services, fundraising costs, lobbying, bad debt or debt collection, fines or penalties, equipment, depreciation costs, utilities, insurance, support staff, which can include HR, fiscal, communications, your CEO, your CFO, staff that are not directly tied to that program. As a reminder, ADAMHS reimburses for services. So any expenses that you're asking for, it's on a reimbursable basis based on the services that have been provided. So one of the things that I noticed was that some of the agencies were not using the new budget template. We have included a new budget template for this application for funding that has the match requirement embedded in it. So the way that you would locate the match guide is you need to log into EC Impact. When you log in, along the left-hand side, there is a panel and there's a series of menus there. You will want to locate the Resource Center, and under the Resource Center, there is the application for funding materials. When you click on the application for funding materials, there will be this menu that has application for funding materials directly in the middle where you can locate the budget template. And then at the very bottom, you will also see the calendar year 2025 match guide. As I've mentioned before, much of the information that I'm covering today is located in the match guide, and the match guide has a lot of good frequently asked questions and information if you want to take some time on your own to review that information. So when we talk about calculating the match, it's important to first start with the total program cost of the program that you are asking for funding for, okay? So you will take the total program cost and you will multiply that by 0.25 to get what your match requirement is. In the case of a program costing $100,000, if you multiply that by 0.25, your match requirement will be $25,000. To calculate what you are asking or what you will be awarded for that program by ADAMHS, you will need to take your total project cost, multiply it by 0.75, and you will get what ADAMHS would be willing to provide as far as funding. So if your total program costs $100,000, you will multiply that by 0.75 to come up with $75,000 is the maximum that ADAMHS could provide for that particular program. This chart is in the match guide. So I just copied this directly from the match guide. As another tool, our grant coordinator located this match calculator that I thought was helpful. I have embedded the link within this PowerPoint, which will be available to you all. But the nice thing about this is the state of Maryland, they have a calculator. And there's different programs here. Now, please don't get too caught up in the program names. The main thing about this calculator that you want to understand is that you would like to select a program that has a 25% match requirement. So in this case, I selected RSAT because it has a 25% match requirement. What you will then put in the box that is here to the right of this table is how much revenue you need to receive from ADAMHS, not your total program cost, how much revenue you would like to receive. So for this example, I need to receive $124,973 from ADAMHS. Once I hit calculate, in green, it will populate how much I'm asking, what the cash or in-kind amount should total, which is $41,658, and the total project cost, which would be $166,631. This is a good tool if you are starting from the standpoint of you need to understand how much you need from ADAMHS. The other calculator is definitely you starting with your total program cost. So I will pull up the budget template, but for right now, I want to point out a couple of bullet points. When you are completing your budget template, please understand that the ADAMHS revenue column is the column where you are requesting funds from ADAMHS. The non-ADAMHS match column is the column where you are indicating the funds that will be matched for that program. The sum of both the ADAMHS revenue and the non-ADAMHS match should equal your total project costs. In order to verify that you have met the 25% match requirement, simply take the total non-ADAMHS match divided by your total project costs. And if it equals 0.25 or more, you have met that requirement. So in this case, we took the $8,076.86, divided it by the total project cost of $32,133.46, and it equaled 0.25 or 25%. So I'm going to pull up a budget, and I know this is a little small because my screen is very large. So when it comes across when I'm sharing, it's a bit small for you all. I apologize for that. This is the new budget template that is embedded in the application for funding site, the EC Impact site. You will notice the first tab is the summary, which pulls over all of the information from the annual budget tab. But what you will want to do is first click on the annual budget tab. So in completing this, you'll want to put your organization name. In this case, I put Youth First Inc., your program name, which is ACE, your project period, which would be January 1st through December 31st, 2025, and who the project lead would be for this program. For this example, I am requesting personnel or salary coverage, travel costs, and supplies. So from the personnel and salary, I have put the salary here of $42,149.50. I typically only ask ADAMHS to fund 75% of this position, but that still means of this 75%, ADAMHS will only be covering 75% of the typical ask. So 75% of that salary is $31,000. The ADAMHS revenue I'm requesting is $23,700, and I am going to match it with $7,900.
Hey,
Now,
Chrissy, we're still seeing the PowerPoint slide. Should we
oh,
be seeing your Excel?
you should be seeing the Excel. So
Yeah,
let me
we're
see. I
not.
apologize for that.
It's all right.
Let's see. I might have to stop sharing and share again. I apologize. Let's try that again. Thank you, Tina. Are you all able to see the annual budget detail?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So when you open up the new budget, as I mentioned previously, the first screen will have the budget summary that is feeding from the annual budget tab or the budget detail tab. When you click into the budget detail, you want to be sure to fill out columns B3 through B6. But as I mentioned, when you're going through this company, Youth First Inc., they are requesting personnel salary. They're also requesting travel costs as well as training and education materials. So of the total project costs, you will put that here. What you're asking of ADAMHS to cover, you will put that in column H, which is the $23,709. And the match will be put into column I of $7,900. Coming down to travel, we're doing the same exact thing. This program will have mileage for this individual of 224 miles at the IRS rate of 67 cents per mile. The total cost of that mileage is $150.08. I am asking that ADAMHS cover 100, and we are willing to cover $50.08. Something to point out for this example is your ADAMHS revenue plus your non-ADAMHS match should totally equal the total project cost. For those who are familiar with Excel, if you highlight any two or more columns, in the bottom right-hand corner, it will give you the sum of those cells. So you'll see here that the ADAMHS revenue plus the non-ADAMHS match equal the total project cost. Even if you are not matching every single category, because you could certainly put all of your match in one category, that statement should still hold true. The ADAMHS revenue plus the non-ADAMHS match should equal your total project cost. So this company has done the same thing as far as documenting first what the project cost is. They need training and education materials. It's going to cost $24.75 per 15 items. The total cost is $371.25. We are only requesting $247.50 from ADAMHS, and we are willing to match it with $123.75. If you get to the bottom of this budget template, you will need to add up all of the non-ADAMHS match. I apologize that this doesn't automatically add. We'll fix that moving forward. But the total of all the non-ADAMHS match is $8,076.86. The total that is going to be covered by ADAMHS here in cell B79 is the $24,000. You'll see the match here again, and the total project cost is the $32,000. All of this information will populate to the budget summary. And as I mentioned before, to verify that you've met that 25% requirement, you will just want to take the 8,000 and divide it by your total project cost. And if it's 0.25 or more, you have met the 25% qualification. Okay. So I want to make sure that I can get back to the PowerPoint presentation. Can you all see the PowerPoint presentation at this point? Awesome. So some frequently asked questions, and these are in the guide, will the indirect cost rate for calendar year 25 remain at 10%? We are aware that for federal funding, it has increased to 15%, but the indirect cost is still at the 10%. And in relation to that, you can use the indirect as a match. But if the indirect is only 10%, you will still need to find 15% of funding elsewhere to make your 25% match. Is my match limited to geographical limits of the Montgomery County? Your match can be comprised of any allowable expenses that fall within the program's regular budget. And this can include expenses for programming outside of the county. Can my agency commit any in-kind match? And we did mention this before. Yes, but the value needs to be $2,500 or more. And it needs to be for expenditures that would typically be paid for with ADAMHS funds. Is the match reported on an annualized or a monthly basis? So for completing your budget template, you are doing it on an annualized basis. There is within the Resource Center, the new invoice template that you will be required to use. You can definitely note your match on a monthly basis, but as long as you meet that match requirement during the course of the entire program, then you are just fine. Do staff members covered by match funds require the same credentials, training, and productivity requirements of ADAMHS funded staff? Yes, all staff listed in the budget, whether ADAMHS funded or matched, they will have the same requirements. And can an agency commit pending grant funds towards the match? Yes, you can. The main focus that I want to point out here is that ADAMHS will be funding the 75% of the total program. And we know that some of those are being secured, but ADAMHS is only able to fund 75%. So something that may or not come your way is that we do have what is called a notice of recommended award. As we continue to review everyone's applications, there might be some tweaks that we're asking you to make, which can include correcting your match information. It could also include other things, such as making sure that ADAMHS is listed on your insurance, and so on and so forth. But what this letter will basically serve as a purpose is that we are recommending funding, but before we can take that to our board of trustees to be approved, we need you to correct some of the conditions that we're asking, and that could include the match information. So that is something that is new for calendar year 2025. So at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And ask if there are any questions.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
I received an email today about the budgets going into the eClamp system. So I made the corrections on mine. Do I also need to put that corrected one in the system? Remove the old one and put that back in the system?
Yes. We have
Real,
is that a prevention question?
yeah, that's a prevention question. Sorry.
Yeah.
So any treatment providers, you don't need to listen to this. We opened a new application set. You'll see it when you log into EC Impact, where you're only going to upload your revised budget. I was sending out individual emails to all of the providers. Some of you guys have been sending them back to me individually. Please, everyone, and I sent out an email asking this, upload it in the EC Impact system. I think there are only 2 providers that are exceptions to that. So if you've received an email from me saying that you're an exception, you know that you don't need to upload that. But the majority of you, yes, please upload those in EC Impact. I need those in there by Friday at 4 p.m. If you have issues, reach out. Thanks, Marquita.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tristan. I do see a question from Karen. Can we ask for a separate meeting with you and Tristan to discuss? We are definitely available to meet for any of those questions. You could also send us a email, but we're happy to meet with you to get on the same page. Definitely.
Thank you.
Hey, Chrissy, I have a question. This is Matt at Eastway.
Hi, Matt.
Could you explain the qualified versus non-qualified expenses again as far as Medicaid services go? Is it my understanding that Medicaid reimbursable services cannot be used as a match, even though that's how we support the programs outside of the ADAMHS funding?
Sure. So if Kimberly can jump in as well, but what we're finding is if there is a service that you are providing that can be reimbursed or paid for with Medicaid or private insurance, we are not able to supplement that or support that any longer. So we have been having those conversations with those different agencies because we cannot supplement, I'm sorry, Medicaid. Is that what you're asking, Matt?
So kind of. So I'm specific. I know this is kind of specific to us, but in some of our residential programs where we had our rates adjusted to a lower rate, in order to make those solvent, part of that is by providing Medicaid services on top of the rates we get for our residentials. So you're saying those would not qualify as match funds then?
We need to take this offline, I believe, Kurtzy, because there's some variables to this, because I believe you're talking about class 1 residential care facilities. Is that correct?
Well, we have some that are class 1, but we have others that are not. Right.
Well, the only one that's not a class 1 is Marshall House.
That's class 2, I believe, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think we need to take this offline because this one's a little more complicated, and it really only applies to, at this point, I think your organization.
Okay.
Is that cool? And for treatment providers, we will be initiating meetings. So initially we were just going to send this notice of recommended.
Right. And the Lodge and Henry are not licensed at all. But anyways, correct. You're right. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we'll set something up and talk through that. But thank you for bringing that up, Matt. I appreciate it.
Yep. Oops.
Will everyone who needs to make updates to their budget or application be contacted via email and prompted with the changes? Yes. So you will be contacted either via email, by phone, or by the NORA. And once that happens, both the treatment and prevention team, they will have to open up your application so that you can go in and edit it. But we will make sure that we're reaching out to you if you need to make corrections. Thank you, AJ.
We are going to try to take the recommendations this month. A handful will be able to take, and then the majority will be in December. But please be aware that the vast majority of these budgets all need changed and updated. So it's very time consuming. So if you don't hear from us, we just haven't made it to you yet, but we will be reaching out. We didn't forget about you. So just be patient as we process through all of these. So thank you.
I've gotten a question about what is required to upload. So that's for prevention providers only. If you're not a prevention provider, I'm guessing just email Kimberly your updated budget. Is that right, Kimberly? Or do you have
actually we're going to be opening up the portal and just having them upload it into their application.
Okay. Perfect.
What other questions can I ask or can I answer? And if you're feeling just a little bit shy, please feel free to give us a call or email us. If you have additional questions, you can call or email myself, Kimberly, or Tristan. If you have specific EC impact questions for treatment once your application is reopened, Emma Goldinger, she is able to assist with that. And her contact information, as well as Vic for the prevention side, is in the application material that's on EC Impact. Well, if I don't have any other questions, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to meet with us today. As always, please feel free to contact us, and we're looking forward to a good year. So have a great day.